Hey, welcome MLS listing subscribers to another podcast here. We're thrilled to have Victor Gomez, the Government Affairs Director with the Santa Cruz County Association of Realtors. Victor, how are you doing today?
I'm good, David. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Thanks. No complaints. Thanks for coming on. I know we have a lot to talk about. We wanted to go over this, coming up in November, this Workforce Housing and Climate Protection Act of 2025, which I know the Santa Cruz County Association of Realtors, as well as yourself, is proposing as an alternate option, right, to the Workforce Housing Solution Act by the Santa Cruz Mayor Fred Keeley, if I got that right.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely it's been a long journey, voyage over the past, I would say, 2+ years to get us to this point where now we have these competing measures on the November ballot. But yeah, looking forward to talking with you and your listeners about it and learning more about the election and really what it's going to mean for Santa Cruz homeowners.
Great, great. Yeah, I guess we'll jump right on and just, first off, just the why of it. Why are you guys proposing this counter initiative?
Yeah, that's a great question, David. Look, I mean, we one of the questions I did a presentation before the realtors last week in San Diego. We get together 3 times a year in these fall meetings. We get together once a year to go over initiatives as well and what we have as associations up our sleeve. And candidly, I was actually not surprised but that this question was asked. But the biggest question that was asked by the attendees who listened to our presentation was, why are realtors proposing a transfer tax?
Yeah.
And so it's really really unusual for us to do that, but that's the competitive initiative process. A lot of people are not familiar with it, and I'm hoping that after your listeners listen to this podcast that they'll get a good idea of a competitive initiative and really what it means to the voters of not only Santa Cruz, but you may see it in the future coming to your town.
Nice. Yeah, that's the first thing I thought is, oh wait a second, we're proposing a transfer tax, um, but you really have to in this case, right, to go against the mayor's proposal.
Yep.
In terms of, I guess, what's in terms of just the general gist of what the difference is between you guys' initiative and the mayor's, because I imagine there's a few. I saw some of the fees and certain words almost double and things like that, but I'll
Yeah.
let you kind of get into the weeds on
Yeah.
that.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, for a measure to be considered a competitive or competition measure, essentially what it means is you have to sort of it's like, let's just say you're buying a brand new Porsche 911 and you're at the Porsche dealership and you want a 911 but you want a different color, maybe a different engine size, maybe a different interior. There's things that you could pick from. That's essentially what we did, and that's what essentially a competitive measure forces you to do is say, okay, these folks are proposing this. You have to essentially have the same manufacturer and model, but you don't have to have the same interior, same color. It could be a cabriolet. It could be just a variety of changes, but it's still the same vehicle. And so 2 years ago, a little bit over 2 years ago, we were approached right after the 2022 election in early 2023. We were approached by Mayor Keeley because he really, really ran. First of all, he ran on a campaign to provide some type of tax revenue for affordable housing construction, right? To build deed restricted low income housing in the city of Santa Cruz. And the association, the Santa Cruz County Association of Realtors, was open to it. And we were looking forward to having those discussions with the mayor. The mayor said, hey, look, Victor, the city is going to pull for a parcel tax. And we're thinking about taxing every single parcel in the city of Santa Cruz a certain amount of money. We're going to test that. It's either going to be we're going to test $75 or $150 per year and see what the appetite of the voters is. And they did that. And so in May of 2023, the city had a presentation at their city council meeting. And for those that are not aware, if a legislative body like a city council or a board of supervisors wants to tax its residents, they have to get to 66.6% for that tax to pass. The only way to circumvent that or to do it differently to have a lower threshold is to have the residents lead an effort to draft an initiative, go get signatures, and you need to get 10% of the registered voter signatures to qualify the initiative. That action there actually lowers your threshold to 50%. So just a bit of education there, because the polling that the city conducted was based on having them get to 66%. The polling came out and literally it said, no, the voters do not have the appetite for this parcel tax. You're only hitting 56% with strong yes votes and lean yes votes, meaning there's some people saying, yeah, I'm probably going to vote yes. And then, of course, the people are like pro-tax or like, you could tax anything and we'll support it. And so the mayor and the city council during that meeting said, well, how do we cheat? How do we cheat this process? And literally, they passed the initiative that they drafted on behalf of the city. They passed the polling data over to this group called Housing Santa Cruz for them to raise money and gather signatures to put the initiative on the ballot, with the intent of dropping that percentage from 66% to 50% to pass. That really, David, is when it became a problem for us. And then that's when we tried to at least start negotiating with the mayor, with Mayor Keeley and his team.
Gotcha. And seniors in your initiative, seniors are exempt?
They are, yeah. One of the things when the mayor was putting his proposal together, as soon as he told us in late 2024 that he was going to change the game plan and do a double tax and insert a transfer tax, that's really when it became a problem for us, because the direction I got from my board of directors in Santa Cruz was, hey, Victor, yeah, we support affordable housing. We want to see affordable housing built. But we don't like transfer taxes. We'll support a parcel tax. We will not support a transfer tax. But unfortunately, the Socialist Democrats came in, or the Democratic Socialists of America, which is they have a local chapter in Santa Cruz, said, no, we don't like parcel taxes. We don't like sales taxes. We want to hit the rich. And so if you're a homeowner, we're calling you rich, because not everybody can own a home. So we're going to take money from rich people. Which candidly I think is pretty comical, because if you own a $1.5 million home in Santa Cruz, you're probably not rich. That's right. Actually the average of a home in Santa Cruz. And so they started at 1.8 million on this transfer tax and did not really allow, any kind of exemptions other than for low income residents. So yeah, if you're a senior in Measure C, the only way you could qualify for an exemption to pay these taxes, the parcel and transfer tax, is to be low income. So what we decided to do when we started drafting our initiative earlier this year, back in February, we made sure that anybody 55 and over, doesn't matter if you're low income or not, if you're 55 and over, you are exempt from paying both the $50. Ours includes a $50 parcel tax. Theirs includes a $96 parcel tax. You would be exempt from paying our parcel tax, and then you would be exempt from paying the transfer tax as well if you're 55 and over, and that's all you need. If you're multiple owners of a home in an LLC, as long as one person is over 55, you are exempt from it. Because again, how do we encourage somebody who's 65 years old, who has a 4-bedroom home, lives by herself or himself, or maybe it's just a couple in the home? How do we get them to sell their home, empty out their home essentially, to provide it to a family, right? And allow them to downsize, right? And move on. If you have a transfer tax under Mayor Keeley's proposal, you could be taxed up to $200,000 on the sale of your home. So imagine that. Imagine you're trying to retire as a senior at 65 years old or 60 years old, and the government saying, hey, before you leave Santa Cruz, we're taking 200 grand from your pocket. No, that's not going to make seniors happy. And again, that's why, David, as you asked, that's why we did include a senior exemption in our in Measure B in our initiative.
Gotcha. The second part of it, the climate protection, why did you guys include climate protection? I mean, all for it, but it just seemed like, is that, well, obviously, Santa Cruz, I guess, tourism and, is that kind of what the thought process was behind it, or?
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's one of the things we continue to hear from people, right? And in the midst of us drafting our initiative, they drafted theirs, the city drafted their initiative back in 2023. They passed it down to Housing Santa Cruz. Housing Santa Cruz, I think, made some minor changes to it, but they had all of last year to draft it. David, I had about like 3 days to draft our initiative. And I had to move quick because the board of directors in January, as soon as we found out that they filed their initiative that included the transfer tax, my board said, Victor, we need to draft a competitive measure and we need to beat them at this. So let's draft our own measure. Literally, I had days to draft that measure or have my attorney draft it and then start circulating the petition for signatures. So we didn't have, we didn't have a lot of time really to move. But in the midst of that, greater discussion on the quality of life, I'll just say the quality of life of Santa Cruz residents, a lot of it had to do with tourism. How do we drive tourism in Santa Cruz when half of the wharf plummeted into the Pacific Ocean? Right? How do we fix West Cliff Drive? And how do we prevent other things like, how do we encourage seawalls being built to provide the protection that homeowners, the government, and other organizations need in and around the coastal area of the city? Well, guess what? There is a direct impact to the value of a home and the health of the local government, right? So if you have tourism that is thriving like Santa Cruz tends to have, we knew that these things need to be fixed if we want to continue to draw the crowds to Santa Cruz, get them to spend some money, generate some sales tax, generate some TOT tax, which we know is about 14%. These are all great ways for the government to raise money. So we included that climate protection component of it in there because we do understand that there is a direct correlation between tourism and the value of your home.
No, I think that was a really smart thing to do. And is this the first time you yourself and the Association of Realtors has competed against like a mayor? Is this the first time this has kind of happened, or have you guys been in this kind of a fight before?
Yeah, Santa Cruz, this is a first. This is a first of its kind. We haven't done it. Even working with the city clerk who runs the elections, even they were confused. They're like, we've never even heard of this. Like, we didn't know this. And I'm like, well, yeah, look, I didn't want to propose this. Candidly, David, I didn't want to do it. But I knew that if all they had to do is hit 50% to win, right, I knew it was going to be hard for us to beat them and get the voters under 50%. Well, the competitive measure, which a lot of people, are not familiar with, don't understand because, again, they haven't experienced it, means that if you have identical tax components, right? That's why I had to include a parcel tax and a transfer tax. If you have the same vehicle, as I stated earlier, whoever gets more votes wins. So it really upset them, and it really did upset the Mayor Keeley, because Mayor Keeley was already celebrating. He was throwing a party already. He goes, we got this thing in the bag. I illegally used money from the city to fund this thing. I passed it to Housing Santa Cruz, and now I'm celebrating. Well, guess what? As soon as we went public with our competitive measure, that smile turned into a frown pretty quickly, because he knew now you don't have to get, now not only do you have to get the 50%,
right,
you have to beat us by one vote, right? And if we run a better campaign than you do, and we get 55% and you get 54%, we win, you lose. So again, it moved the goal line essentially from 50% to whatever we get. Right. They have to beat us now. It's not just beating 50%. It's beating what we bring to the table.
Right. In terms of funding your initiative, is this a realtors funding it, or the association, or how do you guys go about funding the whole?
Well, candidly, I mean, there's so much opposition out there from all over the political spectrum.
Right.
From all over you have realtors who tend to be very purple, right? Tend to be very down the middle. We have a lot of Democrats who are realtors. We have a lot of Republicans who are realtors. The realtor brand is very much, probably, I think, in my opinion, as somebody who lobbies for a variety of organizations throughout the state, is probably the most balanced, meaning we work with everybody. We're not just in the pockets of Democrats or in the pockets of Republicans. We work with everybody, right? And so, most of our funding, yes, is sponsored by our dollars locally, because this means a lot to us. But man, I've received contributions and support from the Bernie progressives of Santa Cruz County. Even some DSA members have called me and talked to me and said, Victor, we don't support Mayor Keeley and their tax. Now, they're not necessarily coming on board and saying, hey, Victor, we support Measure B, your measure, but we definitely oppose Measure C. Because, again, for your listeners to know, there is a probability that both of these measures could fail. Because if neither one hits 50%, and let's just say I get 49 and the mayor gets 48%, both of them fail. One of them has to hit 50% to pass. And again, if both don't hit 50%, both fail, nothing advances.
Gotcha. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, I think you've got a really great bill there. Obviously, there's a lot of things in there. I was just reading some of the, in terms of the costs and, the mayor's, it seems like mayor's parcel tax is the double what your guys' initiative is. And
one of the arguments, David, which is kind of interesting. One of the arguments that I'm hearing from some people out there that are intrigued, right, and wanting to learn is, well, Victor, your measure is going to raise about 1.5 million a year. Their measure is estimated to raise 5 million a year. Isn't theirs better because it raises more taxes for affordable housing? And I said, well, you can certainly look at it that way if you want. The way I look at it is, yeah, I'm raising $1.5 million, but I'm also allowing the residents of Santa Cruz to keep that $3.5 million difference in their pocket. You keep that money. You spend it as you will. If we need to raise money for affordable housing, let's revisit this tax after both of these fail and come to the table in an honest discussion. Because, again, we as an association took the position of support of a parcel tax. And out of nowhere, the conversation, Mayor Keeley gets hijacked by the far left wing of his party. And they said, no, we want to punish homeowners because they're evil because they own houses. Right. And kind of what we're hearing from one of the, candidates for mayor of New York. Right. Where nobody should own real estate. The government should own all real estate. And we rent it to you as our peasants, apparently. We don't like that. As realtors, we do believe in the American dream, right? The owning a home and building that generational wealth that people need. I'm going to share with you, David, a quick story here.
Sure.
And my family came from Guadalajara, Mexico, and we came here in the mid 70s. In 1980, when I was 2 years old, my parents entered a lottery system for about 100 single-family detached homes that were built by the federal government through a federal subsidy. My parents qualified for one of the homes, and they purchased a home. Okay, it was a deed-restricted affordable housing, but guess what? Our measure includes revenue for sale homes because we want people to own a home. Because we understand that if they own it, that one home could turn into 2 homes for their kids, could turn into 3 homes for their grandkids. That equity will be passed down. Guess what, David? When I was old enough to buy a home, guess who was able to provide me the equity and the money that I needed to put down for that home? My parents, because they had equity in their home. Measure C, the mayor's, essentially his initiative is all rental housing. All they want to do is just build high-rise, deed-restricted, affordable apartment complexes in downtown Santa Cruz. And look, don't get me wrong, rental housing is certainly needed. We have a deficiency in California when it comes to rental housing. Rental housing does not provide equity for those families that need to build generational wealth now, right? And guess what? Even just recently, David, my daughter, 23 years old, just purchased her first home. So you could see the generation. If you provide that person the opportunity to own, you see that residual generational impact that it has on families. That's what we want to see as realtors.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right too. I mean, there's just no getting around it. I've seen the NAR, all the the studies and in terms of just generational wealth, it's just It's mind-boggling the difference between those that are able to buy a home and what they can do with it going forward as opposed to renting, right? It's just
Yeah.
there's
Yep.
just no argument there. So on this, so November is going to be here pretty quick. I guess, is there anything in terms of those who support it, can they do to help out, or is there go to your website to support it, or is there any things like that you want to go ahead and maybe shout out, Ed?
Yeah, absolutely. You could just jump on your Google and Google No Measure C, and you'll find us there. We are opposing Measure C. We're opposing the mayor's initiative. We're also promoting our initiative, which is Yes on B. And you can find us, just Google us, Yes on B Santa Cruz, and you'll find us there. Please visit our website. You can make a contribution toward our campaign if you would like. You're going to start seeing a lot of campaign material here coming very soon. We actually already have our mail pieces all designed. They're in the queue, ready to be mailed out. We're doing a lot of digital advertising as well on Meta, Twitter or X, as well, getting out to the voters in Santa Cruz. But yeah, I would definitely encourage folks to visit those websites. But if you happen to be a realtor, go on our website. We do have an FAQ available on our website. So you could, again, visit our website. It's mysccar.org. And you'll find our FAQ on there. That'll help you as a realtor understand the measures and how one benefits you, again, over another. But yeah, this will be a full-blown campaign, David, all the way till November 4th, this election coming up. And we certainly hope to, convince our voters vote yes on B and vote no on Measure C.
Fantastic. All right, November 4th. So yeah, if you're in Santa Cruz, go out there and vote. And I'll put, Victor, we'll make sure to put the links into this on the video on the video itself, so that way you can go ahead and people can find that really easily. Good luck in November, and thanks so much. I really appreciate you coming on and explaining all this to us. And just want to wish you guys the best of luck.
I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you guys too for all the work that you folks do. We really appreciate it. Great partnership.
Appreciate that.
Make sure to check out our pro support page for additional videos on a full range of topics. And don't forget to click that subscribe button on our MLS Listings YouTube page.